Imagine meeting someone born in 1749. This is Conrad Heyer. He saw a world before electricity. And somehow, his face has made it to us. Today, I'll show you the earliest people whose photos have survived. Now they've come to life before your eyes. These photos were taken in the 1840s when daguerreotypes were invented. Their love still lingers in this photo. I wonder how they looked when their story began. Back in the 1840s, a photograph wasn't just a snapshot. It was an event. People didn't smile, not because they were unhappy, but because the process took so long. Holding still for a minute or more meant that every image had to be intentional, every expression deeply considered. These weren't moments, no digital filters, just patience. The patience to sit, to be captured in time, to create an image that would stand the test of centuries. But there's something even more captivating about these daguerreotypes, their rarity. Unlike today's mass-produced photographs where we snap photos endlessly, it's caught by chance. They were moments people chose to be remembered by. And that's what makes daguerreotypes so haunting. These images weren't made by pressing a button. They were crafted, like tiny time capsules made of silver and light. What's even more incredible is that each of these portraits is a one-of-a-kind. No negatives, no copies. When you look into their eyes, you're seeing the exact same plate they sat in front of almost 2 centuries ago. It's not just a photo. It's a physical connection to the 1800s. The way they dressed, the way they held themselves. It all tells a story without a single word. Once part of a bustling world, a world that, despite being radically different from our own, was full of the same hopes, dreams, and struggles. Their world wasn't ephemera, and that's it. That person, their face, their expression, it's preserved forever in that single, fragile moment. When you look at what's fascinating about these daguerreotypes is that each image isn't just a snapshot of someone's face. It's a window into an entirely different world. A world that, for many of these people, existed before electricity, us to the past in a way that no other medium can. They are time capsules, frozen in light and silver, giving us the rare opportunity to look into the eyes of those who lived in the 1700s and to reflect on how, before telephones, before the modern conveniences we take for granted today. In fact, many of them were born before even the United States came to be, when the world still seemed vast and full of untold stories, powerful, if not more so, than the fleeting moments we capture today. As you look at these faces, think about the lives they lived. What were their dreams? What did they hope for the future? What challenges did they face? We can't know everything about them, but we can see their stories in the way they hold their heads, in the clothes they wore, and in the eyes. Imagine, these portraits capture not only a person's likeness, but the very essence of their era. The clothes they wore often paint these eyes. You're not just seeing history, you're seeing a person who lived through it. You're seeing a connection that goes far beyond what we normally think of as old photos. The faces you see in these portraits were in today. These daguerreotypes bridge the gap between then and now. And in that quiet, still gaze, we find a timeless connection that transcends the years. Even though these people lived centuries ago, there's something strangely familiar in their expressions, defined by the internet, by social media, or instant communication. It was defined by personal connection, by community, and by a slower pace of life. Yet, what they've left behind is just painstakingly detailed, each fabric and button chosen with care. The way they carried themselves, their posture telling you everything about how they were viewed in their time. A quiet strength, a trace of kindness, the weariness of a long life, or perhaps the calm acceptance of their time. And while their clothes and hairstyles may belong to another era, the emotions behind their eyes, these weren't just people from history. They were real human beings who lived through wars, revolutions, and cultural shifts that changed the course of history. Yet, what makes their portraits even more if not for this one surviving image? Each portrait becomes a quiet act of resistance against being forgotten, a way of saying, I was here, I lived, I mattered. And in a world where everything moves, these portraits are one of a kind. No negatives, no duplicates. What you see in these images is the exact reflection of a person who sat in front of the camera so fast. Maybe these still faces are asking us to slow down, to look closely, and to listen. We may never know their names. Those are eternal. We recognize them because we feel them too. What's haunting and beautiful is that this is all we have of them. Most of these individuals never wrote books or made headlines. They weren't kings or presidents. They were farmers, mothers, soldiers, neighbors, people who lived and loved and whose stories might have faded into time. Remarkable is the fact that we, here in the 21st century, still look into their eyes and wonder what their lives were like. The 1700s were a time of monumental change. From the Enlightenment to the beginnings of the Industrial Revolution, the world was evolving in ways that many of these individuals could never have imagined, of loving and of hoping for something better. When we look at these faces, we aren't just looking at people from the past. We're looking at the roots of our own story, the foundations of the world that we've come since then. And, just as importantly, they remind us of the humanity that binds us across centuries, the shared experience of being human, of facing challenges. Yet, despite these sweeping changes, life for many people remained simple, rooted in community, family, and tradition. Their lives were not defined by the speed of modern technology, but by slow, deliberate moments. Moments that, thanks to daguerreotypes, we can still touch and feel. The beauty of eyes that still gaze back at us, silent and steadfast, after all these years. These daguerreotypes don't just capture a moment in time. They connect. These images lies in their stillness. Unlike today, where we can snap 100 photos in a second, each of these portraits was taken with immense care. There was no rushing, no quick selfies.